Alright, let's talk about a very specific kind of Dungeon Master anxiety. I know there's a lot out there. But in this situation, you've got this perfect monster in your head. You can see it, you know what it looks like, how it moves, what it growls when it corners a wizard, and when you open the monster manual, flip through 100 or so pages of stat blocks and go, cool, but where's my thing? So you start thinking, I'll just homebrew it. How hard could it possibly be? And 20 minutes later, you're 7 tabs deep into CR math, DPR calculations, legendary resistance benchmarks, and you're asking yourself, is this going to TPK my entire group, or are they gonna one-shot it and meme on me forever? If that's you, first off, you're fine. This is totally normal Dungeon Master brains at work. Secondly, you don't need to do all that by yourself. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite lazy DM tools, which is reflavoring or reskinning. Basically taking a monster that already works and just changing the fiction wrapped around it. By the end of this video, I want you to feel confident that you can make almost any monster concept you can imagine without breaking your encounter balance, without spreadsheets, and without needing a doctorate degree in challenge rating studies. And hey, while we're getting into it, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to Monster Mechanics, and drop a comment with the wildest monster you've ever reflavored. I want to steal your ideas. We're all friends here. Let's start with the core idea here. The stat block is a skeleton. The story is the skin. Rules-wise, a monster is just numbers. AC, hit points, attack bonuses, damage, save DCs, action economy. That's the chassis. The Monster Manual and 2024 update even explicitly tell DMs these are tools. Customize them for your adventure. Your players never see the CR4, multi-attack, +7 to hit, 2d8 +4 slashing. All they're going to see is the Radiant Sentinel strides forward, its blade humming with starlight as it sweeps through you like a falling comet. Mechanically, that might just be a longsword attack with some extra force damage. Narratively, it's a completely different vibe. So instead of inventing a new stat block from nothing, we steal one that already works and put a new coat of paint on it. Let's walk through how we do this. Step 1 is deciding what this monster does in the story. Before we even go about touching any stats, you need to be deciding 2 things. What is this creature for in your world, and what is it like in a fight? You need to be asking yourself, does it want to scare the party off or kill them? Does it care about its own survival at all? Would it set ambushes or just roar and charge in? And is it alone or part of a squad? Once you know those things, you can go shopping for a stat block that behaves the exact way that you're needing. Step 2 is using a CR tool that doesn't have to guess. You do not have to eyeball this. Use any encounter calculator like Kobold Fight Club, D&D Beyond's Encounter Builder, a spreadsheet, or whatever your specific type of math flavor is going to be. Type in your party level, size, and difficulty, and let the machine say, alright, for this fight you probably want something around CR or whatever. We're not worshipping CR here, just for clarification before I get angry comments asking me, Mech, why do you love CR so much? Guys, we're just using it as the guardrails here. This keeps you from accidentally throwing 3 CR10s at a level 4 party because they seem fine on paper. Say the tool says, for your level 5 party, 2 creatures around CR4 would be a solid hard fight. Perfect. Now you don't need to build a CR4 monster. You just need to find one that hits roughly that hard and repaint it the way you want. This is the lazy Dungeon Master move. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just putting sweet spikes on it. And step 3 is finding a stat block with the right behavior. Now you scroll. You're not looking for the right aesthetic quite yet. You're looking for a monster whose tactics match what you're wanting. Want a disciplined defensive guardian? We'll start off looking at some knights, or hobgoblins, or shield-bearing undead, that sort of thing. Or do you instead want a leaping, ambushing predator? Go ahead and stock the pages around displacer beasts, boulets, tigers, and drakes. Or maybe even you want a sneaky little controller. Then you'll want to be looking at things that grapple, restrain, charm, poison, or slow. At the end of the day, you're asking, how does this thing take its turn, not does this look like my idea? Because you could always change Tentacle to Vines, or Firebolt to Psychic Scream. What you can't easily change is, this monster was built as a flying artillery piece, but I wanted a wrestling crocodile. Pick a monster that fights like your idea. Even if it looks wrong right now, we'll fix the skin here in a moment. And here's the big question, is how far can we push this? What can you safely change without breaking balance? In general, these moves that I'm about to list off are pretty safe. The first one being swapping damage types using the same dice. You can turn slashing into radiant or cold into psychic if you want a different feel. Just be aware of any party resistances. If everyone in your party has fire resistance, maybe don't make the main boss all fire damage unless you want an easier fight for them. A second option could be renaming conditions without changing their mechanics. So paralyzed might be entombed in crystal or frozen in time. Restrained might be wrapped in roots. Use the same condition rules, just describe it a different way to your party whenever you're narrating it. You could even go about changing creature types and their appearances. You could make your aberration into a construct, your fiend into a weird spirit, or your beast into a plant. As long as you're not suddenly stacking a bunch of extra resistances or immunities on top, you'll be just fine. Think about even reflavoring spells as non-spells. If a monster casts Hold Person, but you want it to be Chains of Shadow, that's purely cosmetic. Keep the save DC, range, and duration, and just describe it like a super cool monster power. Where you need to be cautious is when you start adding more extra actions, strong new AoEs, big damage on top of existing damage, or broad extra resistances or immunities. So for a simple rule of thumb, if you want to add something big, consider trading something out first. You want to give it a cool new AoE? Maybe remove one of those single target attacks. Add a resistance to non-magical weapons? Maybe drop one of its other resistances. You don't have to be perfect here, you just want it to feel about as hard as the base stat block you're drawing from. And remember, reflavoring isn't just about the description, it's about how the monster actually thinks. Look at its mental scores. If it's sitting at a 5 intelligence and 8 wisdom, this thing is not some master tactician. It's going to charge, bite the closest thing, and maybe try to drag away food. If it's 16 intelligence and 14 wisdom, treat it like the seasoned commander that it actually is. It will analyze, fall back, focus fire, and use cover. You want to be asking things like, with this intelligence, would it recognize spellcasters as priority targets? With this wisdom, does it avoid obvious traps and hazards? Or with this charisma, does it taunt, bargain, or try to recruit the PCs mid-fight? So what if your players recognize your monster? Yes, this is another fear that all dungeon masters have. If I reskin the boulet as a crystal lion, what if someone at my table goes, oh, that's just a boulet, and metagames it? I've got a couple thoughts on this. One, if your players are that system savvy, congrats, you've got nerds for friends, go ahead and embrace it. And two, you do have some options here. You can straight up tell them out of character, hey, for balance, I'm using the boulet stats here, just reflavored as this crystal lion. Experienced players at your table will get it. They'll happily lean into the fiction while their mechanical brain chugs in the background. Or you can tweak it just enough to keep them guessing, which is what I tend to prefer to do. You can change the damage types, maybe swap out one of the features, describe things a little bit differently. And if they assume this behaves exactly like the boulet, and you have to do something new on round 3, That's delightful for everybody, and it's fun for you. Remember, knowing the stat block doesn't make the fight boring. The interesting part is how you use the stat block, the terrain, the objectives, the timing, the way the monster retreats or surrenders or even calls for help. In summary, the big takeaway here is that you don't have to build a new monster every time you have a cool idea. Most of the time, reflavoring an existing monster is faster, safer, easier, and honestly just as satisfying. Save your big homebrew, brand new stat block energy for the real campaign-defining bosses, the weird edge cases, and the stuff you enjoy designing. For your everyday celestial guards, crystal beasts, fungus horrors, clockwork soldiers, shadow assassins, cursed paladins, ocean ghosts, grab a chassis that already works and give it your own personality, story, and vibe. If this was helpful, let me know in the comments what monsters you've reflavored or what you're thinking about doing now. I might turn some of your favorites into a full how to play episode. And seriously, do me a favor by hitting that like button, subscribe to Monster Mechanics, ring that bell so you don't miss out on the next Tactics deep dive, and share this with your Dungeon Master friend who's quietly suffering in a Google Sheet full of half-finished homebrew stat blocks. We're here to make your monsters meaner, your prep lighter, and your table way more fun.